Good day, everyone. For the Planning Around the World series today, I'm going to share with you about Malaysia, a country located in Southeast Asia. So I'm Professor Goh from the Department of Urban and Regional Planning, Faculty of Built Environment at University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur, the capital cities of Malaysia. University Malaya is the oldest university in the country, and interestingly, Department of Urban and Regional Planning is actually the youngest planning school in the country. Anyhow, I'm very excited to walk you through how we plan for our towns and cities in Malaysia and how this planning shapes everyday's life. I hope that this session will give you a grounded understanding on how planning is practiced in one Southeast Asian country. So here is what we will be covering: what town planning means and its role in Malaysia, the legal and institutional framework, how development plans are structured, the process of development controls and monitoring, as well as the key challenges and the current trends. Let's start with a brief introduction to Malaysia. So Malaysia is a Southeast Asian country located partly on the Malay Peninsula and partly on the island of Borneo, with a total land area of approximately 330,000 square kilometers. It is a federation made of 13 states and 3 federal territories and capitals located in Kuala Lumpur, while administrative center in Putrajaya. Both are in the Kuala Lumpur metropolitan area. The country has a constitutional monarchy headed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, is also known as the king, which is elected every 5 years from among the Malay rulers of the state. We are a multi-ethnic, rapidly urbanizing country with a strong planning traditions, which can be traced back to the colonial era. If you take a look in terms of the history, we have the ancient colonizations to the Malacca Sultanate, which is traced back to 14th century, then the 15th century and 16th century. Then a long periods of colonizations, right, started with the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British. There's also a brief Japanese occupation during the World War II, then later the Malayan independence in 1957. So basically, Malaysia obtained the independence in 1957, and as you all know as well, that in 1963, that is where the formations of Malaysia took place in 1963, where we see we see the formations of Malaysia consists of Malaysian and Sabah as well as Sarawak together with Singapore during that time as part of Malayan. Then in 1965, that is when the Singapore became independent of Malaysia. So as of 2024, when we talk about the populations, we have an estimated populations of about 34 million at the moment, with the ethnic compositions like majority Malays and the indigenous group, about 69% of the total populations, followed by Chinese and Indians. Malaysia in general, we have this very young and urbanizing populations, with now more than 75% of the populations live in urban areas. The major cities include Kuala Lumpur, which is the largest city, as well as the capital city, Georgetown, Johor Bahru, Kota Baru, and Kuching. Like many other countries, we face challenges balancing growth and sustainability and equity, and I think that this is even more crucial for developing countries like Malaysia. So let's start with what urban planning actually means in the Malaysian context. So what is town planning? By the way, I would like to make these remarks as well, that town planning and urban planning will be used interchangeably in my presentations. So in Malaysia, town planning is also known as physical or land use planning. It is all about managing land, resources, and developments to benefit communities. It is guided by the key registration known as Town and Country Planning Act 1976. I will elaborate further about the legislation documents right later in the slides. Ultimately, the aim of town planning in the country is to create healthy, sustainable, and functional environment. Today, urban planning in Malaysia manages urbanization for economic, social, and environmental benefits with 6 major goals. The first one is to promote sustainable development to ensure that urban and rural developments meets the needs of the present as well as the future. Secondly, is to improve the quality of life with well-designed, accessible, safe, and pleasant communities created. Next, it is to coordinate the physical, social, and economic growth and strengthen the interconnected system by integrating housing, infrastructure, employment as well. Next, it is to enhance the environmental awareness and the resource management with emphasis given to the provisions of quantity as well as the quality of green spaces, sustainable transportation systems, efficient resource management, and also mobility. At the same time, plannings also play a critical role to support the government policies implementations, helping the government to deliver successful zoning and urban management. Last but not least is to foster livable, opportunity-rich cities that remain enjoyable place to live and to work. Specifically, Plan Malaysia, which is an agency established under the Town and Country Planning Act 1976, granting authorities to regulate land use, development controls, and conservation in the country, has outlined the objective of urban planning in Malaysia to focus on promoting sustainable, efficient, and livable cities while addressing broader social, economic, and environmental growth. These illustrations highlight how Malaysian planning system turns this objective into actions through compact development, transportation planning, as well as a focus recently on mobilities, resilience building, and public participations. So one of the key initiatives is the transit-oriented development to reduce the sprawl and emissions of carbon. So modern town planning in Malaysia have actually begun in the early 19th century during colonial rule, especially with the creation of local authorities in Georgetown, which is also a UNESCO World Heritage Cities, as well as the state capital cities of Penang, a state located in the northern part of peninsular Malaysia. Some of the important milestones when we talk about the evolutions of town planning in Malaysia include the first planning communities for Kuala Lumpur was set up back in 1913, then in 1921, the appointment of the country's first government town planner, Charles Reid, and Reid has played a very critical role in introducing modern urban planning concept, notably the garden cities ideas to Malaysia. Reid drafted and advocated for the first town planning and development bill in 1923, which resulted in the town planning enactment of 1923, the foundational legislation for town country in Malaysia. Since then, various early ordinance and enactments shape lands and urban management have taken place. The next turning point is of course the passing of the Town and Country Planning Act 1976, which is also known as Act 172, which unifies planning processes and authorities across peninsular Malaysia. These historical roots still shape how we plan today. Now I come to the legal framework and legislation. So the main laws when we talk about planning in Malaysia can be divided into three. The first one is peninsular Malaysia, then the federal territory, specifically we are referring to Kuala Lumpur, as well as Sabah and Sarawak. And I'm going also to share with you about the role of constitutions in shaping the planning legislations in Malaysia. So as mentioned just now, the Malaysia's planning laws different by the region. That's four main categories of planning laws. This is due to its federal system. So we have Act 172, also known as Town and Country Planning Act 1976. It applies to Peninsular Malaysia. Then Act 267, or known as also Kuala Lumpur Federal Territories Planning Act 1982, applicable for Kuala Lumpur. And we have Sabah Town and Country Planning Ordinance 1950, or Sabah Cap 141, as well as Sarawak Town and Country Planning Ordinance 1952, also known as Sarawak Cap 87. So the planning laws provide the structure on how decisions are made as well as enforced. So when it comes to the major developments in town planning after 1976, there is four notable important amendments to the Act itself. The first one can be traced back to 1993, which addressed the sewerage issue. Then in 1995, where the new environmental conservation measures were to prompt stricter enforcement of hill slope developments guideline in the country was introduced. 2001, we witnessed the strengthened federal role, which introduced the National Physical Plan and regional planning concepts to the country. Then the more recent one is in 2007 with the introductions of integrated solid waste and public cleansing management. Each of these change responds to the gaps, emerging issues, or the new policy goals. For instance, the amendments that is made in 1995 is actually responding to the Highland Tower collapse in 1993. The Highland Tower collapse is one of the most tragic structural failure in the country history, which has been identified to be caused by a combination of engineering, geological, human negligence factors. This tragedy actually has resulted in the death of 48 people who are the residents in the condominium. Planning in Malaysia is under a concurrent list of federal constitution, which means that both the federal and the state governments share the responsibility in urban planning. While the federal laws set broad framework, the states have the autonomy, especially over the land matters, and this division can make coordinations quite challenging, but also it allows for the flexibilities for the local needs as well. Apart from Act 172, we also rely on other key legislation, especially when we talk about National Land Code as well as the Local Governance Acts. And planning's power in general are spread across the federal, state, and local levels, of which it's very much that to have the next level at the community level, where we call it the micro planning. So as a follow-up as well to the previous slide, that Malaysia's federal constitutions places planning under the concurrent list, Article 74, which foster for both national vision and state flexibility. So the constitution is very crucial in defining the boundaries of who does what. So in this context, the states actually controls the land use, but the federal government sets the broad policies. In a more specific term, if you take a look how planning actually involved in the three arms of the governance, the national governance, when we talk about legislative, executive, as well as the judiciary powers. When it comes to the legislative powers, the parliament and the state assemblies make the laws, executive powers, where we see local and state authorities that implement those laws, and judiciary powers, where courts and appeal boards resolve the dispute, and actually the appeal board actually have the final say, yeah, to decision which cannot be challenged. So together it creates checks and balance within the planning system at the federal levels, with the states level as well as the local level. So when it comes to the institutional structure, there are three main levels of planning governance in Malaysia: federal, state, and local. At the federal level, we have Plan Malaysia and the National Ministry. And Plan Malaysia, as mentioned already earlier, is a crucial agency were established under the Town and Country Planning Act 1976, which been granted the authority to regulate land use, development control, and conservation. It also provides advisors to the federal and state governments on planning matters. Then at the state level, we have state planning departments and committees, and local levels, the city and district council, which are the closest to the communities. Quite similar to the institutional structure of which we see at the federal level in terms of the development plans. We have the national physical plan, then structure plan at the state level, and at the city, municipal or district level, we have local plan as well as spatial area plan, which have a focus on any efforts that is required for a unique zone, such as heritage conservation, industrial planning, or even coastal conservation. This diagram aims to visualize how the power flows between different levels of planning governance as well as planning system in the country. At the federal level, as we already mentioned earlier, Plan Malaysia and the Ministry are meant for strategic planning, policy, as well as coordination, whereas at the state level, planning communities and departments translate the federal aims into state context. Then at the local level, at the moment, we have 102 authorities, yeah, which are made up or consist of cities, municipals, and also district councils, perform the daily administrations and enforcement. Community-based or micro-planning, yeah, referring to the experiments in the tailored local solution, especially in hotspot or complex issue, and sometimes it can be very specific issues as well. So if you might notice how local authorities sit at the base, yeah, because they are the ones that dealing with the day-to-day planning issues directly with the communities or with the citizens. And again, to mention that Plan Malaysia, which is also known as the Federal Department of Town and Country Planning, is a crucial agency under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. Locally, is also known as KPKT, serve as the Malaysian National Authority on Urban and Regional Planning. And for a very specific focus, it will be on peninsular Malaysia. Yeah. So in terms of the development plans, yeah, each of these plans will serve a very specific purpose. At the national level, we have the National Physical Plan. It's a long-term federal strategies. It guides national priority. Then the state structure plans, of which each state will have a micro-level plan. It guides the full state development, and it shapes the broad spatial developments in the states. Basically, it is about resource planning. At local plans, it covers cities or districts with detailed zoning and land use proposal for district and cities, and it tailors national and also the state goals, yeah, to on-the-ground needs. Special area plan, yeah, drill down to the very site-specific intervention, yeah, for specific zones like mentioned earlier, heritage, or it can be also a tourism area or coastal area, yeah. So each levels actually have these details and which are tailor-made for the local relevance then. So these are some of the examples that I mentioned earlier about the national development plans, then regional and territorial planning, as well as the development plans then. So the national physical plans now has come to the fourth edition. National Urban Policy, the second, as well as the National Rural Physical Planning Plan 2030. So these are the documents that are available online. We have examples of regional and territorial planning documents, including for the coastal zone physical plan, then the ecological linkage central forest spine, as well as the East Coast Rail Link, and for flood preparedness as well. Development plans are available at the State Planning Office. This is a very specific slide, right, to elaborate a little bit further about the functions and of the different types of development plan, as well as who actually prepare it. So at the national level, we have the latest National Physical Plan 4, which has been set to align with the Malaysia 12 Malaysia Plan. So Malaysia Plan is an economic roadmap of the country. There's two key focus areas for NPP4, National Physical Plan 4. The first is on the economic prosperity, sustainability, security, and inclusivity. Then the second one is very much focusing on when we talk about spatial planning and land use planning, with a focus on urban sustainability, carbon neutrality, land use efficiency, and improve community life. Strategic directions have been set to have a balanced and dynamic growth, advancing sustainability and livable environment, as well as inclusive community. So in terms of the very specific development targets identified in our National Physical Plan 4, there's three key highlights. The first one is regarding the urbanization rate, which has been targeted not to exceed 85% in 2040. And at the same time, is that out of all the local authorities that we have in the countries, at least 101, so that is close to 100% that will perform or given the status of sustainable. And this is actually an assessment based on MUNINET, which is used the city sustainability indicators to measure the performance of sustainability performance of each of the local authorities in the country. The other highlights is about to achieve 50% forest coverage with a mention on peninsular Malaysia in 2040. So this actually marks an increase rather than a decrease of forest coverage in the country then. And this context again it is very specific focus on peninsular Malaysia, which is actually more what you call urbanized, and at the same time is that many lands has been actually transformed from the forested areas into the built up ones. So with a focus on peninsular Malaysia and also the federal territories, this slide actually presents the spatial ecosystem with a very focused on the achievements of optimal land use as well as economic developments in key growth area, which we can see here. It is very much focusing on the coastal area of both sides of the peninsular Malaysia, and this is where that we still see at the central forest spine in this area, which is still much preserved. And what is really important is that as mentioned here about the preservation and conservation of ecological assets especially, is that to minimize the intrusions of this large piece of the intact forest, which actually form the backbone of peninsular Malaysia. And at the same time is that to enhance the inter-regional connectivity through integrated networks, that we are talking not only about the land or even only through the highways or car, but also the train system as well. In Malaysia, the growth areas are divided or grouped into four key categories. The first one is the combination. At the moment, we have four combinations, which refers to the major contributors to the country's economy. These are the big conurbations, also marked here in orange color. Yeah, we have Kuantan, then we have Johor. This is where Greater Kuala Lumpur is located, and this is Penang. These conurbations have land use activities that generate very high economic returns and have an efficient and effective transit, communication, and infrastructure system. Come next is the promoted development zones, yeah, as identified here, yeah, in purple color. With this development zone actually have the population, yeah, have the populations exceeds 100,000. So for your information, for instance, when it comes to the terms about megacities, Malaysia do not have a megacities, because megacities in general is referring, when it comes to the population statistics, it refers to cities with a population of more than 10 million. We do not have that, but of course it's like Kuala Lumpur is our premier cities then, yeah. And these promoted development zones, they are the key job centers, yeah, provide vast and diversities, yeah, range of the job opportunities, and have its own specific functions and potential in generating economy, yeah, for the local populations. Then we have next is the Catalyst Center with populations more than 10,000 people. It has very specific function, and also at the same time is that it supports the promoters at development zones. Last but not least, the agropolitan centers, of which we have 23, which has been identified in the National Physical Plan 4. This refers to the towns and rural settlement centers, located in agropolitan area or districts. Very, very important, major agriculture service centers, and has potential to be an agriculture marketing and trading centers. So it is not only for the economic developments, but also for meeting the basic needs in the country, food security as well. Now coming to planning control and permission, as well as guidelines and monitoring, of which we are going to touch briefly about development control system in the country, then planning permissions processes, role and responsibility of local authorities, and guidelines and assessment. In Malaysia, the development control system ensures all land use and projects aligns with approved plan and sustainable resource use. Any applications by the developer for any buildings, use change or redevelopment must go through local authority permission. So the local authority, which also acts as the local planning authority, evaluates proposal by checking fit with the local plans, zoning, environment and infrastructure's capacity. Local authorities can approve with condition, refuse or enforce compliance. Systematic process is meant to prevent hazard or harmful urban growth. Planning permission, which is also known as a development order or in Malay language, a kebenaran merancang, is compulsory for any change in land use, of building construction or redevelopments. Applicants must submit the site and building plans, environmental and social assessment, as well as the layout plans, yeah, for the authorities to check for compliance with the national law, local policies, and zoning. And it is also the current planning permissions applications is streamlined by the one-stop centers which coordinates right amongst the different agencies. Yeah, appeals is possible if refusal is seen as unfair, and this can be made first goes to the local authorities, and the final would be to the appeal board as mentioned earlier. Local governments in Malaysia, or also known as the local authorities, are the main gatekeepers when it comes to the planning system implementations. They review the applications, hold consultation, enforce laws, and ensure that developments serve the communities that they are actually serving. They are expected to balance growth with sustainability, and local governments prepare, implement, and periodically review local plans. Yeah, they manage day-to-day land use changes, approve or reject project applications, and enforce regulations. They also need to consult with the public for greater transparency and better outcomes. Detections of any unauthorized developments and issuing penalties falls under their responsibility too. Apart from the legislation, Malaysia also uses various performance indicators to monitor urban sustainability. This includes housing affordability, green space, public facilities, and crime rates. And these indicators help track progress and guide improvement. So far, there's more than 35 planning guidelines that have been produced, covering design, green tech, resilience, social impact, and more. Key tools include iPlans GIS and data platform, Malaysia Urban Observatory, also known as MUO, Murninet, which has been mentioned earlier as well, the city sustainability indicators. And this framework actually and tools supports evidence-based and transparent as well as data-driven planning in the country. Specifically, instead of like to touch a bit on this urban sustainability assessment framework, Murninet, which uses 43 indicators across 6 dimensions to assess the urban sustainability. It helps cities to track their progress towards livability and sustainability goals. At the same time, it's also aligned with the SDG Goal 11 Sustainable Cities and Communities. So at the moment, apart from the 43 indicators and the 6 dimensions that's together 22 teams that has been made, aligned with the global best practice. Currently, Murninet is in the midst of revision, of which is that improved version will then be introduced for assessment, hopefully already by early 2026. Another good example that I would like to share is the Iskandar Urban Observatory. This, or in short, we call it IMUO, Iskandar Malaysia's Urban Observatory Project. It collects data to support planning decision, and it shows how digital tools can improve governance, engage communities, and shape smarter cities as well. So Iskandar Malaysia Urban Observatory integrates big data, analytics, and citizen engagement to support smart and sustainable growth. So this is where it showcases data-driven policy and continuous stake engagements will be the key for modern planning and desired outcomes. Other national and state levels track includes the low carbon initiative, the planning guidelines, disaster risk management, environmental initiative, housing affordability, access to service and open spaces, as well as urban sustainability, crime rates, and conservation, which are also mentioned earlier. We will then move to the next slide. So this is where that about initiatives to map the disaster risk, yeah, by integrating disasters like resilience management. This is where that right how the planning system actually incorporates disaster risk into planning using the hazard map, vulnerability analysis, and integrated resilience strategies. And this is really important for the coastal and flood-prone areas inland in Malaysia. We have also guidelines to promote and implement green neighborhood initiative. And personally, I really like these guidelines because it promotes walkability, low carbon lifestyle, and sustainable urban design. And communities are even recognized through annual awards right, for their green efforts. Planning, as we all know, not without the challenges. Let's look at what Malaysia is currently facing and how we are adapting. First and foremost, it's about urbanization, which is accelerating, which has put a lot of pressures on housing and its affordability, as well as other basic amenities as well. This is also closely linked with the aging society, of which proportions of seniors are increasing. We have less children now. Yeah, one of the key contributions to that is also because of the increased living costs and the pressures, which then, yeah, these aging societies right, requires adaptable cities, which at the moment we are still trying to do our best to cope with. Next is disaster preparedness and the risk mitigations, which are increasingly urgent. In Malaysia, the main one would include the floods hotspots as well as the sea level rise, where we see severe erosion at the coastal area. Health and well-being issues intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic and economic uncertainty and stress-related disorders. Yeah, and one more, it's regarding the coordinations remain complex due to the multi-level governance leads to differences in planning delivery. Although it's very flexible, but at the same time, it also means a complication, which I'm going to elaborate a little bit further. Last but not least is beyond the land-based plannings, whether are we still focusing only the land-based plannings in terms of land area, how about the marine planning, and whether we should only try focusing on spatial planning or should have gone beyond that as well. After all, if you take a look on the challenges that we face, either at the cities level or even at the community levels, there's no single disciplines that can come to provide any solid solutions. And urban plannings, I always see it as some things that are able to unify, to integrate different sectors and expertise to come together and work for our society. Rapid urbanization is straining the housing supplies in the country, not in terms of the quantity of the supply, but rather it's about its affordability. And this course, I'm referring to the low and medium income groups. If you take a look on this chart, showing the household disposable income by income class, in Malaysia, is that we have the classifications of income class, namely B40, M40, and T20s. The alphabets stand for below. Yeah, so B stand for below 40. 40 means that the percentage of the total populations that falls in this category. So by saying that 80% of the populations in the countries are categorized or grouped into low and medium income. Yeah, so for B40, it refers to populations household income less than 5,000 ringgit Malaysia. M40 earn between 5,000 to 10,000 ringgit Malaysia, and T20 earn exceeding 10,000 ringgit Malaysia. These classifications, of course, has been recently criticized and suggested to be revised for a more realistic pictures of the household affordability in the countries. Two main highlights is that what we mentioned as M40, yeah, they are actually quite close to low income groups when it comes to their affordabilities for goods and services. Whereas even those we have what we call the top 20% and top income groups in the country, if you take a look in terms of currency and compared to other countries, yeah, to realize that they are actually only medium income groups actually. Yeah. Further to that, based on the data, Malaysia's urbanized from under 30%, yeah, to actually now we are talking about 76%. However, if you take a look on how the housing price have actually outpaced the medium income growth in the recent years. So this is where that we are not talking only about building more house when it comes to the supplies, but it's also more inclusively. If you take a look on this chart showing the compounded annual growth rate for the medium income, notably 2012 to 2014, to see that the income has increased about 3%, but the median house price has increased tremendously from 4.4% to 23%. So it is almost regardless of how much increments that you can get, it is not possible to get an affordable house because of the increments. You will never be able to catch up with the increase in the housing price. Next is about aging society. If you take a look about aging, the trends in Malaysia is that the population share over 65 is rising, and Malaysians in general feel anxious about preparedness for old age because this was not really one of the key concerns. The change in the demographic profile as well as the social cultural structure means that the elderly might not be living in their children like what has been culturally practiced in the past. And because of this, new types of housing and infrastructure for aging populations become very, very crucial. If to add up with the issues of affordable housing, imagines that the aging societies, how they can ensure that their quality of life can be supported, especially after retirement. This is also need to be seen and read together about those who are aging, and there are still majority of them are classified in the low and medium income group. Malaysia in the recent years also faces flood risk is intensifying, coastal erosion is also intensifying, and other climate-related disaster. The northeast monsoon, for instance, and extensive coastline expose Malaysia to seasonal flooding and environmental risks. And disaster risk mapping identify hotspots require integrated and preempted actions. If you take a look here, this is a very recent one, and more than 4,000 flood hotspots were identified. And to the right is the area views taken by drone showing the damage caused by the coastal erosion in Terengganu, a state located on the east coast of peninsular Malaysia only early this year. So urban planning now need to integrate climate adaptation through zoning, design standard, and early warning system to support the risk mitigation. The other focus is about the post-pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, which during the pandemic, we witnessed a spike in mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and stress, which have risen sharply. This is also contributed by isolation, yeah, during the lockdown, job loss and uncertainty that hits right vulnerable groups, right, the worst. And these public health impacts are now part of the urban planning agenda, yeah, in Malaysia, of which planners are beginning to think beyond buildings towards mental health, physical activities, yeah, and access, yeah, to green space. As you might know or might not know, Malaysians actually have the largest populations who suffer with obesity in Southeast Asia. And this is where that, right, one of my colleagues, junior colleagues, for instance, Dr. Hashima Lim, she is now looking into planning and also help, yeah, to take a look on how actually urban planning through spatial planning and through, yeah, encouraging, right, more physical activities can contribute to health, not necessarily only physical health but also mental health as well. And COVID-19, of course, it was very difficult. It's a key challenge for many of us. But at the same time, it also like taught us and showed us that how much urban design can affect our daily health. Because planning involves multi-level governments, the institutional coordination is really a challenge most of the time. Yeah, we need a clearer, transparent, and effective communication between the national, state, and local agencies to avoid overlaps and also delays, especially also when there's a change of government. Yeah, federal, state, and local system while enables like tailored policy at the same time also can create fragmented standards, yeah, overlaps, delays, and inconsistency sometimes arrive from dual and multi-level responsibility. Local variations enables innovation, but at the same time also complicates the uniformity at the national level. Malaysia consists of West Malaysia and East Malaysia. As we all know, the East Malaysia is part of the Borneo Island, while Peninsular Malaysia, um, in the Chinese word translation, it means like half islands. Yeah, we have a total of more than 4,000 kilometers of coastline. Yet, marine and coastal areas are often not included in land use planning. Recently, we have actually paid attention to the coastal management. However, marine has not been integrated yet. At the same time, if you take a look, the Malaysia's vast coast and biodiversity is under the pressure of reclamation. And this is a result of the land scarcities that we are having and rapid developments as well as conflicting stakeholders' needs are very pressurizing. Recent research and advocacy, such as by Sabahat Alam Malaysia, highlights the lyrics, yeah, to national habitats, fisheries, and also endangered species. We really need to push for the integrated landscape planning to manage development, conservation, as well as public interest holistically. Aging societies not only means or meant for human or the populations. At the same time, our cities age too. Recently, a new Urban Renewal Act is already drafted in Malaysia to revitalize all urban areas. And this idea, of course, is to make urban renewal more transparent, inclusive, and legally supported. Yeah, it aims to guide the redevelopment of aging neighborhoods in urban areas. At the moment, the Urban Renewal Initiative under the Urban Renewal Act are governed by the Strata Titles Act 1985, which require, yeah, anonymous consent, yeah, from all properties owner under Section 57 of the Act before the management body can act as trustee to carry out redevelopment projects. So under this proposed new legislation, the Ministry of Housing and Local Government has recommended a tiered consent threshold based on the conditions and age of the building. Yeah, it's like 75% for buildings over 30 years, 80 years for those under 30 years, 80%, yeah, under the 30 years, and 51% for buildings classified as D, yeah, dilapidated or unsafe for occupancy. But again, is that right? The public has also shows different opinions, and as far as we are being updated, is that further stakeholders engagement, right, will be done. Yeah, even though according to the ministry, which is shown here, Ministry of the Housing and Local Government of Malaysia, yeah, Nga has actually mentioned that by at least 100 engagement sessions has been done, but it seems that more would be required. The recent trends, including smart cities, for instance, yeah, which incorporates AI, big data, IoT for urban solutions. We really have to think about how it actually tries to support us, improve our quality of life, but at the same time, what would be the drawbacks, right, from the applications? Then one of it, of course, is that it is not a drawbacks, but rather a concern about how to ensure about the principles of inclusivity is incorporated when we apply the smart cities initiative and AI as well. How this can actually close the gap or reduce the gap between urban and rural populations amongst populations of different income group due to the affordability. At the same time, the lifestyle change, for instance, online shopping, hybrid car EV, work from home, work from anywhere, digital nomad, online entrepreneurship also change the conventional ways that we design and plan for our city. How this is taken into consideration for us to continue with our city management, our urban management. For instance, is that this is always my personal concerns as well when we talk about walkability. We would like to encourage physical activities, but at the same time is that to look at the convenience of the technologies have then kind of put us into a complacent situation where we have actually more leisure time because life become more convenience as well. But actually how much time has been spent outdoor for healthy physical activities and also beyond gadget, which the leisure time can be also indoor rather than outdoor. Next, of course, is on the digital nomads and remote works that rise, the digital entrepreneurship, flexible and remote home. It also push the urban planners to think about the design of a neighborhood area. Which the conventional offices may not be the only way for our planning in the future. Nature-based solutions are gaining traction for climate adaptations and resilience. So smart cities very much has been focusing on the technologies and to see that nature-based solutions how much it would help in responding to the climate actions that has been urged globally. Participatory design and placemaking, as we know, more communities engagement would be necessary, more local-based placemaking, or even when we talk about the place-based planning with attention given to inclusivity as well as food securities that produced locally. In short, plannings have become more interdisciplinary. Yeah, it may cross disciplines. Sometimes it can be, yeah, multidisciplines, but definitely it is more interdisciplinary and it's more people centric as well. Last but foremost, we must move from the rigid top-down plans to evidence-based and research-informed, data-driven, and inclusive approach in urban planning. Yeah, planning become more agile, iterative, and community-driven. Yeah, and the shift towards to frequent plans updates, legal accountability, continuous monitoring of outcomes using big data, yeah, legally binded and public participatory planning process which has been enhanced with the priorities given to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And the key would be nexus thinking, monitoring interrelated sustainability growth in cities and in communities. Yeah, of course, the youth voice are crucial here because they are the next generations that are going to, yeah, experience the consequences of what we are doing today. Planning shapes our cities and our futures. Founded on robust legislations and multi-levels, institutions, and the hierarchy of national, state, and local plans, Malaysia planning system continues to evolve through laws, institutions, data, and people. The need for constant adaptations, legal, institutional, and technological, is ongoing due to the demographic, social, cultural, environmental, as well as economic and revolution. While challenges are significant, yeah, which includes and already been briefly discussed, urbanization, climate, health, aging, coordination at the institutional level, institutional level, there are signs of proactive adjustment, which includes smart cities initiative, legal modernization, and participatory approach, which has been given more emphasis. Effective town planning eventually, yeah, we know that it is really important for sustainable, fair, or equitable phosphorus urban futures in Malaysia and can only be achieved, yeah, through inclusive stakeholders engagement and effective communication within the planning governance systems. So with that, I already end my sharing for today. And sharing here, so right, the reading list for the readings that right you might be interested. And also don't forget to reach out that you have my email address should you require more information or any collaborations or discussion. Very much welcome, and thank you.